Last two games had opportunities in the last couple minutes and weren't able to get very far down the field. Just what can you do better in those 2 minute, 1 minute situations?
Yeah, I think it's like a number of things with the offense right now. Just a lack of consistency. One play it might be the protection. One play it might be the route, the quarterback and receiver being on the same page. We've practiced it a good bit, and honestly, this fall camp, and even when we've practiced it this season, we've been as good as I've been anywhere. But that's kind of been the case with a lot of things. We've been really good at a number of things in practice that we've not necessarily been as good at in games. And so I think you could sort of say that's a microcosm of where we're at on offense right now. We're doing a lot of things really good in practice, some things good in games, but a lot of things in games are showing up that are different than I think what we anticipated based on what we saw in practice.
So when you see that disconnect, how do you try to change that?
I think you have to address two things. I think you have to address the players' emotional side and mentality and talk about where they are, meet them where they are. I think if, as a coach in a moment like this, if you ignore that, then you're short-sighted, and even beyond that, that's not what I want to do as a coach. I want to try to help these players learn something that could help us become a better football team, that could help each of them become better people and players. I talked to them about that Monday. But then in a more pragmatic sense, you have to address the things that are holding you back. And, we had 5 drives where we didn't either turn the football over or have a major penalty, and we scored points on 4 of those 5. And then we had 5 that were otherwise, where we had either an interception or holding penalty or a chop block. And not that you can't overcome those things, but sets you back. And in a nutshell, I think there are a lot of other things that we can improve on, starting with me. But if we just fix that, or even cut those things down drastically, then we're in a different spot right now.
How much did not having Daniel affect what you wanted to do against UNLV?
A little bit. Maybe more than a little bit. I think it just puts more of a load on Dev, and he's in really good shape, and for the most part, I think he can handle that. But it is. I've felt like for years it might be the most physical position in the sport, and so when you take those blows over and over and over, not to mention what you're doing in pass protection, it does take a toll on you in the fourth quarter. If we have him back, then yeah, it will certainly help us, and we'll play with 2 of those guys on the field at the same time more.
Jeff, when you look at West Virginia, what do you see from them on film?
A lot of what I've seen the last 3 years. I've had the pleasure of playing them the last 3 years, and I got a lot of respect for Neil Brown, know him personally, and a good coach and a tough guy, and a guy that I believe does things the right way. And his team shows that. They play tough, they play physical, they're sound on both sides of the ball. Respect what they do on offense as well. On defense, very aggressive style from their front, an attacking style. Guys blitz, and they're trying to hit that gap 100 miles per hour and run through your face. And guys up front on the move, big guys that can all move on the line of scrimmage, and then multiple coverage system, mainly zone, but different types of zone in the back end, and they do a good job.
They had trouble containing Pitt's quarterback last week. Is that something Jaylen could expose?
I hope so.
On the topic of Jaylen, on Friday night, Lance talked about you and Coach Z and Jaylen sitting down to find some more stuff that is comfortable for Jaylen? Just what do those conversations look like, and how have those kind of taken place?
Yeah, we've done that. We've done all that, but you know, anytime something isn't working or working as well as you'd like for it to, then you got to address it at a deeper level. And you know, it's easy to try to say this is what we're doing, and some guys would maybe put their foot down and say you just got to do this better. And I don't believe that's the way to go, especially when you have a guy like Jaylen that's unique talent. And so I think it's just being totally honest, both of us being totally honest about what we're comfortable with, and just continuing those conversations more and more and digging a little bit deeper into them.
I know that West Virginia's thinking about using some different players at cornerback and whatnot that they haven't put in before. When something like that's on the horizon, how do you kind of prepare for that, especially if they don't have a lot of tape on those guys?
Yeah, I think they're going to play how they play. You know, I mean, I think their style is going to be their style, and that's been consistent since they've been there. Whether there's a new player in that position or not, and whether you've had a lot of film on him or not, I think you can imagine you're going to get a similar style of play. What you find out when you get into the game sometimes is what you might choose to run against a particular guy. And if you don't have film on him, then like I said, sometimes you find that out in the game.
Jaylen was asked this on Friday after the game, if there's any sort of common denominator or theme between the interceptions he's thrown. Are you seeing anything?
What did he say?
He said they're all different throws, different plays, different mistakes.
I'm trying to dig through them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't see a common denominator. No, I don't. I see a guy that's trying to make a play and trying to help his team, and felt like that was the place to go with the ball, and in that moment it just wasn't.
Would it be easier if there were a common theme? Because then you just point to that and say, that's what we got to eliminate. I mean, to get that.
Yeah, probably so. But somewhere in there is a commonality in what's happening. It might be more emotional or psychological or visual in nature, as opposed to a particular play type.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll keep working to see if we can uncover
Sure.
that.
Let Lance to mention mechanics as one of the things you would look at. Are you seeing everything look like it needs to look there?
Yeah, well,
Obviously not on every throw. You know.
when I've been around a lot of different types of quarterbacks, and the best ones that I've been around, when they were in college, Cam Newton, Zach Wilson, Jaylen, tend to throw the ball at times in ways that you might not traditionally teach a quarterback to throw. And they have the unique ability at times to throw in unusual positions and still be accurate. Within that, it's still our job to help him see how he can do that and still be most effective. And so I think with any player, there are pieces of that can be improved. And sometimes that may not even have to do with the interception talk.
Yeah.
I think that's probably more due to accuracy on some of the other throws. But again, I've said this before. I think Z does a great job with him, and I know it's going to get right.
With earlier games, you had said you thought there was a sufficient level of frustration on the sideline when things weren't going well for the offense. I guess, did you feel like that same frustration was there with the UNLV game?
Yeah, and even a little bit more. I think every time something happens, it's like, I don't know, sometimes when I'm eating, I get aggressive because I'm still a lineman, and I bite the side of my mouth or my lip, and then it kind of pisses me off, but then I do it again and it makes me more mad, and then I do it a third time and it really makes me angry, and sometimes I even pound the table. Then my wife tells the kids it's okay. As frustration grows with number of times something like that happens, sure, yeah. So does the emotion behind it, and I told the offense I met with a specific group of leaders yesterday and talked with some different individuals, and I don't know if Illinois was rock bottom for us, and sometimes you got to hit all the way to the bottom before you recognize what level of commitment you're willing to make to get it right.
Do you often meet with leaders like that, or is that something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so there's a group of guys that I'll meet with from time to time, and then Lance does that with a leadership group, but at times I'll do that with certain guys on the offense, sometimes individually, sometimes collectively.
I think you talked about it in fall camp that you didn't like where the O-line was at after 3 games where you assess how they've improved your overall play.
Yeah, I'm pleased with the progress, but not content that we're where we need to be yet. I thought they played a great first half, and like the rest of our team, not a great second half, and that's a part of what we're dealing with. You've got the practical side of the turnovers and the penalties, and you fix those things and you address them directly, but there's still going to be some of that happens. Football is not a perfect game. And so when that imperfection shows up, then how do we deal with that? Do we have the resolve to actually walk through that moment and then do well again? And you can set yourself up into a position for stumbling into the here we go again mentality if you don't learn how to come through one of those moments, and we need to come through one.
Jeff, you a minute ago said a lot of things you can improve, or the team can improve, starting with you. You maybe have addressed it. What are some areas that you're looking at for yourself?
I think the biggest thing for me is just trying to put our players in the right place. And I told the guys this after the game. I just said, it's my job to prepare us to play and to put every player in the best position possible to have success. And I said I didn't do that well enough, and so it's on me. And so we've really tried to dig even deeper into that this weekend, and yesterday putting together this game plan by trying to put every guy in position where he can do the things that he does best. And part of that's learning, me learning what they can do, learning for example, what Jared Casey can do and what Trevor Cardell can do, and then what Tavita can do and Leighton Cure can do. We're playing with 4 different tight ends right now at various times, and each of them has a different skill set. So for me to expect Jared, even though he has the most experience, to be able to do the same things that Trevor or Tavita might do isn't realistic. And so I think a big part of it is just trying to find what players do best, put them in positions where they can do those things, and then I think, like I said earlier, just in talking with Jaylen, just things that the quarterback is comfortable with. I learned this a long time ago, if your quarterback is comfortable and your offensive line's playing well, then the other things usually work themselves out. I mean, our receivers, most of those guys could run any route that I call. Running backs, they can run any run play we want to run. But if the offensive line doesn't block it very well, it doesn't matter. And so we're just leaning into the things that I think our guys do best.
You've talked about the trust you have in these guys, the veterans, and it being a two-way street too. In your previous stops, you're still new to them, and they're still new to you, especially on game day. Is there a timeline or a period that sometimes it just takes to go through to fully get that comfort and kind of have things click in the way they need to click? Is that part of it?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, my other two were so different than this one.
Sure.
The other two, I walked into situations where the offense had not done well at all,
Right.
and they were looking for something new and different. And this one obviously is different than that. But I do feel like there's a trust, and I do feel like the players are with us and willing to do what we ask them to. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't just walk off the field and have what I thought was our best Tuesday practice from an offense, and we probably challenged them more than we I know we both mentally and physically challenged them more than we have. And so that tells me that their minds are in the right place.
How has the arrangement with you on the field and Z in the box gone so far, and do you plan to continue that?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I think we may make that switch. We haven't made that decision for sure, but we've talked about it. We talked about it even prior to the last game. I mean, we've talked about it a number of times just because that can go either direction. I'm comfortable either place. Z's comfortable either place. But in giving me the ability to get upstairs and get in a more sterile environment and see it a little bit better, and then, you know, probably more than anything, giving Z the opportunity to be with Jaylen on the sidelines as he's the one who's with him every day, certainly more than I am. I would say there's a better chance that we do that than not.
Anything else, Coach Grimes? All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Jeff.